Now, distance to the target, we're about 7 miles right now. So if I were thinking about putting myself into the shoes of these guys in the F4, you know, the Rio in the back would be heads down in the display for the targeting pod. We have, what is it, the paved spike pod, which is just a kind of an early targeting pod. It would have been mounted actually on the one of the AIM 7 stations. I believe it's the front left AIM 7 station that is taken up by the pod in this case. That's why these had I think they had a reduced, I'll have to double check that to make sure if it's accurate, but they should have had a reduced loadout of AIM 7s as a result of having that pod there. Now, Reno 1 and 2, I don't mind you guys hanging out up there. If anything, you're trying to distract this SA-3. And now we're getting into the engagement range, and now we're going to see what's happening. So, got the pilots flying, got the Rios in the back, looking at the pods, trying to deconflict, figure out which one is going to take out which. Speaking of that, I can come over here to map settings and I can go to targeting vectors and see exactly what's happening here. So they've got all 4 targets designated, but I think on this pass they're only going to drop 1 bomb on each target. I think that's the way that it's set up. If not, that is something that I would be able to go in and change if that were not the case, but I'm just going to take the default and see what happens. Okay, so we're within range. Got some bombs heading in on the target, and I'm going to now have these guys fly off, and they're going to have to more or less overfly the target, but they're going to egress then to the north and to the west. And I hate right now to do anything to the target waypoint because I want to have them just sort of not directly overfly the target. They would be able to just kind of go in offset, just kind of bank left and not overfly the target and still be able to keep the target in sight. But I'm just going to let the AI take care of it just in case that causes problems. I'll experiment later when I'm not recording. So it looks like I've got a couple of bombs going in on this target, and we'll have to see how this works. Okay, so the paveway GBU-10AB starting to come in on the target now. Okay, so coming up on impact, and let's see how this does. No response from the SA-3s just yet. Okay, that's impact on 2 of the revetment targets. Now, what do I have left? I have 2 GBU-10s left on these aircraft. Now, if this SA-3 is not going to engage, I'm going to come back around and take out these other 2 targets. Or I think what will happen is they will automatically come back around and take out these other 2 targets. If not, then... Okay, BDA report, heavy damage on both revetments. That's perfect. Okay, missile launch, SA-3. Okay, I want these guys just to get out of the area. That's all the target employment I'm going to do on this one. So yeah, these guys are going to be lucky to make it out of there. I mean, it's as high a deflection shot. I've given them every advantage that I possibly could. Now I've just got to wait and see. Okay, I've got another contact up. This is SAM-27, unknown report. I think that was just a visual acquisition, yeah, in the AVQ-23, actually, yeah, in the paved spike, they picked up a SAM. Okay, so first missile missed. Was actually spoofed by chaff. That's awesome. Okay, another missile coming in. You can see that they're automatically evading. They're turning to beam the... Okay, hit. Black Shack 2's down. That was an SA-3. And, wow, just terrible luck. That was a final probability of hit of 9%. We lost on both of the opportunities to spoof the missile, both with chaff and with the jammer. Final probability of hit 9%. Wow, okay. That guy's down, and yeah, like I said, this guy was just turning to beam the radar. And by that I mean that it is turning just to put it at a 90-degree angle so that it's not... Okay, another missile launch, so that, yeah, you can see it turning to beam again. And that just puts it in the optimum configuration, the optimum geometry to be able to spoof the missile, because that makes it harder for the tracking radar to track it, and that also makes it harder for the missile to pull lead and to track the target and to guide on the target. Okay, looks like we spoofed both of those missiles, and that was... I don't know what spoofed that. That might have just been the chaff or the ECM pod. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it for the mission. I'm just going to have this guy get out of the area. I'm not going to have him re-engage. We've lost enough on this on this try. Okay, Renos, we'll go ahead and have you return to base. And you, yeah, you're just going to continue on your path. I don't think there was any other air opposition. I think it was just the SA3 site. And whatever this is, that's... I don't remember if anything was briefed as far as other... I think it did say AAA and SAMs in the target area. I kind of meant that took that to mean just AAA and the SA3. But apparently there was another, possibly like a mobile SAM unit. Maybe we'll get a visual identification here as this guy starts to egress, but... yeah, that's good enough for now. And speaking of that SAM, let me choose a slightly different egress route, just so that I don't try to overfly this area any more than I have to. So I'll just take them out of here and get them completely out of the engagement envelope of the SA3, and then I'll tie and compress it on back to base. So, 2 primary targets taken out at the loss of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 F4s. Not a good mission. I mean, in a lot of these cases, especially if it's a fighter weapons school mission or especially a red flag mission, it's not meant for you to get in and out easily. You're meant to take losses on these missions. It's just a matter of, okay, how many losses do you take? And I sure as heck took my share of losses on this one. I think my plan was a good one. I think I executed it pretty well. I think I was... well, there's no such thing as luck. I think I gave my guys every opportunity to get in and out of there. I just wish I could have avoided that close-in air engagement up here and made that a strictly beyond visual range fight. I mean, granted, you can't really do that when you're up against a numerically superior enemy like that. You only have so many missiles that you can fire. And with an AIM-7 Sparrow, you've only got so many missiles that you can count on getting a hit with. So, I mean, I think I did as well as I could in that aspect of it. I avoided the close-in fight as long as I possibly could. I drew the enemy away. I think that worked out. That part of the mission worked out very well, I thought. I didn't think that the strike aircraft were in that much of a danger from the air threat, so I think that aspect of the mission went very well. I just didn't get that SA3 site to go down. That was just a tough nut to crack. I don't know what I could have done tactically differently to take that thing out. I mean, granted, I wish I would have had a dedicated ECM aircraft, and I wish I would have had maybe some strikes, AGM-45, anti-radiation missiles that I could have launched in there. Something other than just going in there at low level and then just head on with an SA3, and you saw how well that worked. Although, it was just a roll of the dice, you know. It was only about a 30% chance of that missile that took out that first Blackjack 1 flight, or flight member. That was just luck, and then that parting shot from that SA-7 on that second Blackjack 1-2 was just total luck. That was just a 1 in 10 lucky tail shot. And, you know, it just kind of fell apart from there. The SA-3 side stayed up, therefore Blackjack 2 didn't have an unopposed engagement with the primary target, and I lost one of the Blackjack 2 flight members. So, I'm happy with the plan. That's one where I feel like I could fly that same plan again, and the outcome would be, well, it could be very much worse. On the other hand, you know, it might turn out worse than it did, or it might turn out better. I think it was a solid plan, but this is one of those scenarios where you could come up with a dozen different ways to fly it, and I don't really think there's a right answer to this. I think there are just a lot of variables thrown in here, and I think the way that I executed this, or at least the way that I planned this, not necessarily executed it, was about as tactically sound as I can make it. But yeah, I would be interested to hear and read, or better yet, to see some other examples of ways to execute this mission and see what some other results are. So yeah, let me know what you think on that. So, okay, this engagement is over. Let me go ahead and time compress and get all my flight members back to base, and let me just go ahead and have Blackjack 2 return to base, even though he was doing that already. I'll get my package recovered, and of course it occurs to me now that I completely forgot about the thing where I was supposed to send an aircraft up here to the finish line, but it looks like the scenario automatically finishes once I get the strike package recovered back at Nella, so that's fine. My final score was 5. I thought I deserved a little better than that, but then again, I only took out 2 of the primary targets. That SA-3 side was still, for the most part, up and running. And let's look at losses and expenditures. Of course, the main thing there is I lost 5 F4s, And opposed to that, I took out, on the other hand, 9 F5s, but I should have and could have made a better show of that. Granted, only, what, 2 of them, in fact, were taken out in the air-to-air realm. The rest were hit during the strike, so, I mean, that's not a bad ratio when it comes to an air-to-air fight, 1970s air-to-air fight. But I've already been through all that. Now, let me come down to losses on the OPFOR ground side. So 2 SA-3 Goa Quadra. Really? I took out 2 of the launchers. I took out 2 of the SA-7s. I took out the flat face, and I took out 1 aircraft revetment. So I stand corrected. I only took out 1 of the primary targets. So let me see. I know that SA-3 site was still up at one point. Let me see what all was left there. Let me go to the SA-3 database entry. Now, okay, here's what explains it. Now, let me bring the debrief back up. So the entire complement of this SA-3 site, I took out 2 of the 4 launchers, so they still had 2 launchers up and running. I only took out the flat face. I mean, look at what happened there. I took out half the launchers, and I took out 1 of the radars. Of all the radars I could have taken out, I had to take out the flat face. If I had taken out the low blow, that's the illuminator radar, then they wouldn't have had anything to guide the missiles on them. So I don't care about the flat face. I care about the low blow. I took out 2 of the launchers. That would have done the trick too. If I could have, instead of taking out the radar, taken out all 4 of the launchers, they wouldn't have had anything to fire at me. I took out 2 of the SA-7s. If I had taken out 1 or more of the SA-7s, it was just the last remaining SA-7. I guess he was really mad at me for taking out his 2 buddies and managed to get the shot off. So that's just ridiculous, but I mean, that's the way it goes. I mean, it comes down to luck, but you know, then again, there might have been a different way to fly this so that some of these things that I'm kind of riding off to luck, you know, everything can be mitigated and planned around. So knowing what I know now about the way that everything interacted on this mission, I'll be able to take that knowledge and move on to the next mission and say, well, I know this works, or I know this didn't work last time that I tried it. And that's all that you can ask for out of any mission that you fly, whether it's a total success or whether your final score is 5. You know, it's all in what you take away from it, and it's all in what you put into it and what you get out of it. And I'm completely happy with this. This is a lot of fun. So, okay, I'm going to wrap this one up here, and as always, thanks again, and I will see you next time.